Just remember the procedures over here. Back to bed.
Yeah.
Hey, Sandy. Henry's getting after it. Good, how are you?
It's okay.
You know, you got the...
Anything for closer? Anything for going closer to the
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think my brain's hooked up to it. I ain't ready to focus right now. No, yeah, exactly. And I didn't even notice until after the Cowboys game, we tried to do something. Yes, sir. They cut a fiber optics line somewhere.
Yeah, buddy, in town has it.
Yeah, then y'all are.
Internet. He came by with PDS.
I don't have TDS, but we were having trouble here.
I was trying to... Really? Even with the pharmacy and all that?
Yeah, you know what?
Is that good?
No, that's not good.
I do. It's amazing how internet such like a hours right at his bedtime. It's just amazing how that happens.
Crazy how.
I have to put a switch in my bedroom.
Bedtime switch.
I told you to go to bed.
Man, I have AT&T, it's slow, but it's kind of reliable. I mean, we got trouble citywide as well.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular board meeting of the Stockton Education, ISD. Today is Monday, December 13, 2021. It's 7 p.m. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Dominguez to do our roll call.
Mr. Dominguez, present. Billy Espino, present. Lou Garcia.
Here.
Freddy Martinez. Here. Andy Rivera. Sandra Rivera.
Here.
Ursula Sanchez.
This meeting has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. This time, I'm going to ask Mr. Garcia to lead us in our pledges of allegiance, followed by revocation by Dr. Zamora.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Merciful Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here this evening. We ask that you continue to bless the Fort Stockton Independent School District, the great state of Texas, and our country. We ask that you watch over all of our citizens as we continue to make our way through this pandemic, and that you grant us the wisdom to keep pushing this district in the right direction. In Jesus' name we pray.
Next item on the agenda is the open forum and public comments. We did not have anyone sign up for that. Next item is staff reports. Dr. Zamora.
Sure, for the sake of the principals and the parents that are here, I recommend that we allow the principals to present students of the month first.
The winner.
Dr. Zamora, Mr. Espino, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. Well, to kick it off this evening, I would like to call Jose Hernandez to join me up here. Jose has been selected by his teachers as the December Student of the Month for Fort Stockton High School. Jose makes a tremendous effort to assist his fellow peers in the classroom environment. You can count on him to direct substitute teachers and paraprofessionals on how things need to be done when those teachers are not present. He is self-motivated and he self-advocates. This is evident because of the way he tracks his own academic progress. He participates in extracurricular activities like athletics. His list of social skills is extensive. Jose is a worker. He's been recognized for academic excellence, which that means that he's consistently advancing his learning to higher levels of achievement, and also motivation, because he has the ability to motivate and encourage other students to advance past their expectations, both academically and socially. So Jose, congratulations for all of the hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Lavelle.
Sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Chavez. I'm the current principal at Fort Stockton Middle School. I'm here to present to recognize our Student of the Month for middle school. We chose this month's student. She is a student. She's also an athlete. So she is away at a game this evening and was not able to attend tonight. But anyways, her name is, our Student of the Month is Avril Ibarra. She is an all-around outstanding student who always pushes herself to be the best that she can be. She is an honor roll student. She plays the trombone in the middle school concert band and participates in the middle school girls athletic program. She displays a strong work ethic, is a leader in the classroom, and has an overall great attitude. And again, our Student of the Month for December is Avril Ibarra. Thank
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mrs. Urias, and I'm the principal at Intermediate. This month in December, our student of the month is Lexus Sotelo. She is a 5th grader at Intermediate. Come on up, Lexus. Lexus is a 5th grader with a very good work ethic. She tries very hard to accomplish work to 100%. Not only is she a good student, she is a well-behaved and is a good role model for her classmates. Lexus is willing to help out anytime she is asked, whether it is helping her teacher in class or helping her classmates. So Lexus Sotelo is our December student of the month at Intermediate.
Congratulations.
Hello and good evening.
So thank you, everybody, for giving us this opportunity to recognize our students. Alamo Student of the Month is this young man here. He is a 2nd grader reading at a 4th grade level. He's also at the end of his 3rd grade in math. He's doing long division currently. On some of his programs that we have, we're able to determine where the students lay. This young man, every morning, he greets Mrs. Strada. She's our curriculum director. He greets her with a hug, and he states how grateful he is for Mondays. He absolutely loves Mondays. Then on Fridays, he says, it's the weekends. And he doesn't really like weekends because he'd rather be at school. He's very, very excited and enthusiastic about his reading programs, such as Mind Play, and also in Ascend Math. And speaking to his parents just a while ago, he says the same thing all the time, so much so that his little sister is looking up to him and she's excited to come to school. So he not only encourages others to do well, but also in Miss Fellow's class, she states that Osh is an incredible student. He's a very great kid, literally loves teaching everybody something new each day, including her. He helps out, and he's her little mini teacher. There are not many kids who ask for homework, but he does. He asks for homework all the time. He's eager to learn as much as he can, and then when he comes back to school with his homework in hand, they go over, they have a deep discussion, and she can always tell whenever something was difficult for him or something was super easy, but she says that she's truly, truly honored to have him as a student. Our team that has recommended Ashk Patel for Student of the Month says that he's an outstanding student and he always gives his all. He's very, very well-mannered. He always follows directions and he's extremely kind to others. So much so that he has shared his culture with me in giving me little snacks from his country, correct? All right. So without further ado, this is Ashk Patel. He is Alamo's Student of the Month.
Congratulations.
If I can have this one. London is a 1st grader at Apache Elementary, and she is our Student of the Month. London is always eager to learn. She's a straight A student. London is a role model to other students. She is ready to answer and ask questions. While learning, she always makes it fun. She helps put a smile on all the students and all the teachers' faces daily. Her witty personality brightens everyone's day. So, great job. Thank you. And so, London is her student.
Congratulations.
Thank you, principals, and thank you, parents, for making the trip out to see your kids honored. This is, I think, everybody's favorite part of the meeting, and when it concludes, we always allow an opportunity for, if you would like, to depart, or you may remain and watch the rest of the meeting, which is not going to be as interesting. But either way is fine. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Moving on to staff report, Superintendent.
Yes, sir. So just a reminder to everybody that the Christmas party will be taking place this coming Thursday for the staff and a +1 at the Civic Center. I think people are looking forward to that. I've heard a lot of positive things, and the ladies have already started working diligently at acquiring door prizes and setting up some games. So a lot of positive that I've heard as far as them saying one together as a district. So unless there's any questions of me, that's pretty much it that I have at this point. The rest of it will be covered in the actual meeting.
Questions?
What time is it?
It's from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Business management, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Gomes?
Do you have something, Mrs.?
No, sir, unless there's any questions.
Assistant Superintendent and Athletic Director, any questions to these folks?
We do have our released football all-district for the year. So, yeah, we were well represented on the all-district list. On the superlative end, the offensive MVP, Dominic Aguilar. We had the lineman of the year. He's actually our two-time lineman of the year, Elijah Escajeda. And then Devin Rodriguez was the utility player of the year. You know, he's offensive, defensive. He was our long snapper. Did a lot of stuff for us. So offensively, we had 6 selections for the first team. Corbin Luna, Isaiah Garcia, Devin Rodriguez, Cruz Rojas, Rito Gomez, and Danny Valenzuela. 3 second-team offensive was Isaiah Velasquez, Jadrian Ramirez, and Julian Leyva. On the defensive end, we had 4 first team, Danny Valenzuela, Darren Ureste, Shane Velasquez, and Isaiah Garcia, and 4 on the second team as well, which was Dominic Bernal, Zane Hodges, Jordan Franco, and Christian Garcia. So we didn't have any honorable mention. Everyone we put up actually was selected this year. And then, of course, our academic all-district and academic all-state, those are still processing. So once we have those, we'll award those young men at the banquet. So
Congratulations, Coach. Any other questions? No. Principal. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The board has been furnished with background material on each item, and already has been discussed at a previous meeting. All items will be acted upon by 1 vote per category. Items will be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items will be adopted by 1 vote per category. Items withdrawn for separate discussion will be acted upon individually. We have A, the minutes of and approval of minutes of the regular board meeting on November 15, 2021, and the special board meeting of December 1st and December 8, 2021, and B, the November check register. Any questions? Comment? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda, 8 minutes, B, November check register.
We have a motion by Flo to approve the minutes and the November check register. Do I hear a second? Second by Fred. Any other questions? Not all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is discussion and information, A, single member trustee district plan. Dr. Samora?
Sir, this was emailed out, now you have a hard copy in front of you, and Ms. Sarah Leon did send out Ms. Mackenzie Walters, who is here as a representative. Ma'am, the floor is yours if you'd like to cover it. They did have it ahead of time,
Sure.
so if you have questions, she'll get to that portion as well.
My mind just went blank. I was like, what is my name? It's that straight I-10. It just blanks your mind. With that, my name is Mackenzie Walters. I am an attorney with Sarah Leon and Associates, and I am out in this area pretty much all week for board meetings, so I wanted to make sure that y'all had a chance to have me here to ask any questions before y'all make your final vote to approve. As you see in the materials we sent out and in the large printed copy, that gives you the insert into just Fort Stockton. This is the final map that y'all had talked about previously. It redistricts everything into your wards to make a really pretty good balanced wards. Maybe you remember from previous discussions, we are required after a census to rebalance our wards if we have a deviation from the biggest, most populous ward to the least populous ward greater than 10%. And y'all had, I think, a much higher than 10% deviation. So we had to do some moving around, but now y'all have a legally sound, balanced, carefully created redistrict wards. So if y'all are happy with what y'all have, on your agenda tonight is a resolution that would finalize and accept that new map, that new plan, and it would become effective really for January 2022. So if y'all have an election coming up in May, open spots, this is the new map that would be used.
Any questions? I think we're good.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Next item on the agenda is Park Hill presentation, results of ISD facilities and technology comprehensive analysis. I believe we have Mr. Hector here today.
Mr. Hector is here. Sir, were you going to have someone else besides you, or just
Yes,
online?
Michael Howard is on, so.
Hold on for a second. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Are we supposed to make any motion on that?
Not until we get to the action items.
Not right now. No.
Okay, well, good evening, Hector de Santiago, Park Hill, firm principal. Along with me is Michael Howard. He's the one that, another partner of the firm. He's the one that's led this effort as far as the facility assessment and technology assessments as well. And he will be doing the presentation, but I definitely want to be here just in case any questions pop up that, sometimes I know when I've joined a few times Zoom, it's been a little hard to hear, so I just want to make sure to hear any questions you may have properly. But with that, I leave it up to Michael Howard to go ahead and pull up the presentation and go ahead and present to you.
Thank you, Hector. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, Dr. Zamora and members of the board. It's great to be with you again. I presented to you last month and have some new information for you this month. For the audience, my name is Michael Howard with Park Hill. We're an architecture firm. A little background on this study. This was a facility needs assessment that addressed the needs of your existing facilities from a facility condition standpoint and technology and security. So essentially we went and assessed facilities and looked at your plans and drawings to look at the age of your facilities and specifically the systems that make up those facilities, to look at their condition and what needs repairs or upgrades or system replacements, and assigned a cost to those needs. So the last time we presented last month, we had 10 facilities we were looking at. After some further discussion with staff, we've added an additional 9 facilities. So we now have 19 total facilities we've addressed in this study. And those are shown in this table to the right here. So these facilities have an age anywhere from just a few years old to 90 years old. Obviously, older facilities tend to have more needs, but the average age of your facilities is just over 40 years, at 42.5 across your facility portfolio. So the total square feet we addressed was 874,000 square feet across those facilities. So this is a cost summary dashboard that basically summarizes the costs of what we feel are immediate needs in your facilities to either, as I mentioned, correct immediate needs for repairs or upgrades or do system replacements. So this column on the left shows you the summary of costs by different systems. So mechanical systems are HVAC type repairs. Interior construction could be anything from walls to toilet partitions to doors and other hardware inside the facility. Of course, electrical panels and distribution, wall finishes, windows, fixed furnishings like cabinets and countertops, plumbing needs, ceiling finishes, exterior doors, fire protection and sprinklers, the exterior facade, and flooring finishes. And we also looked at fire alarms, roofing, and other site needs. The total cost across all facilities of these architectural needs was just under $25 million. For the MEP and fire protection systems, it was at 16.5. And then we also looked at technology. So technology systems, we broke down into 6 different categories. Security needs are things like cameras and other things to maintain secure environments. AV and multimedia are things like classroom technology for instructional purposes. We also looked at intranet and infrastructure needs and wireless Wi-Fi, and then communication needs that are more on the infrastructure side. So those technology needs total just over $10 million. This chart here shows you kind of what those costs sum out to on a campus by campus or facility by facility level. So the greatest need is at the high school, and that's mainly due to its size and its age, and the middle school and intermediate school as well, being some of the larger needed, having some of the larger needed budgets. We try to compare all these facilities on an apples to apples basis by assigning each facility a facility condition index, which is a metric that allows you to basically assess what the how far along the facility is in its life cycle. So we take the total sum of the needs today and divide that number into the total replacement value of that campus. And that gives us a percentage between 0 and 100 that tells us the relative condition of that facilities, more on an apples to apples comparison across your portfolio. So this chart you're seeing here are those percentages. The redder columns on the left are the greatest need. The lower numbers on the right have less need. So at 67.5%, Comanche is the facility we felt had the greatest need and was in the worst condition, and the Special Event Center had the less amount of need. So to give you some perspective from a facility planning standpoint, when this FCI metric, it starts to exceed 60%, that's when we start having a recommendation to possibly look at replacing a facility, because sometimes there's so much need for that facility due to its age that it might be too great of an investment to do the system upgrades, where it may make more sense financially to look at constructing a new facility. Now, there are other things to consider. So just because you see these 3 columns over 60%, we're not saying all 3 should definitely be torn down. This number can be lowered through some investment in system upgrades. But it is a metric that helps you to decide whether a building is worth renovating or if it's time to start discussing replacement. So really anything below, I'd say 25% are good facilities that have been well maintained and need further investment. And then the older facilities, when they start creeping above 30 to 40, you have to start looking at possibly a major renovation to bring it back into line with what we would consider a good standard for facility use. So we've delivered this dashboard to staff. We also delivered an executive summary report with some detailed reports that document our findings really on a room by room basis. And Dr. Zamora, I'm not sure, did the school board receive those reports in advance?
Yes, it did. I emailed each one of them, the different versions and the different reports.
Okay, great. So I've kind of given you a quick overview, but given that you have those reports and we have this dashboard, I'm happy to take any questions about kind of our approach or findings or kind of what we feel like should be the next steps moving forward.
Which campuses were identified, those 3 on the left? I know Comanche, but that's...
Sure. So the 3 on the left that were in the worst condition or had that FCI that exceeded 60% were Comanche, the high school field house, and the football stadium. The football stadium, we're mainly talking about the architectural elements, not necessarily the field and lighting, but more so the stands, the bleachers, the press box. These facilities are, make sure I tell you the correct age, 54, 59 years old. So at 60 years, they're pushing kind of the end of their useful life, and without a major overhaul, they're going to need some major reinvestment to lower that FCI.
And just to ensure that everybody's tracking, that FCI is not necessarily directly correlated to the cost. So something that is in much better shape, like the high school, just because of the sheer size of the facility, may still cost more to bring back to a zero, whereas over here, the field house, if you click on it, if I remember correctly, can you click at the cost of redoing the field house?
The total cost to replace it, is that what you're asking, Dr. Zamora?
Yes, can't you just click on it and it'll replace the numbers?
So we had the total replacement value of the field house at $2.8 million. The total needs we've identified to basically for needed repairs or upgrades today is 1.7 million. So what you're seeing on the left here are what those are. So there's some mechanical repairs, electrical, plumbing are some of the bigger ticket items.
Michael, would
yes,
you mind reading out those numbers? They're a little bit small here on the screen.
Sure. So what you're seeing here in the darker blue are the necessary upgrades or repairs we feel are necessary today for the field house. The greatest need was some plumbing repairs, but also some upgrades to HVAC, interior construction. So the total was 1.7 million based on the life cycle of these systems, whereas the total replacement value is 2.8 million. So what that FCI says is, the facility can be replaced for 2.8 million, but it has 1.7 million of needed upgrades. And so that's what's driving that 60% facility condition index.
So when you say replace, you mean, we're talking about the field house, you mean
New.
Get rid of that one and build a whole new one?
Yes, sir.
And so that would be the square footage the same as what we have now, or how?
That's based on pretty much the same amount of
pretty
square
much the same
footage.
square footage?
Yes.
That's correct.
And if
What
was that square footage on the one we have now?
Can you identify the square footage?
It's about 9,500 square feet today. And so that 2.8 would be based on replacing it at the same square footage. And so as Dr. Zamora said, the FCI is an important metric to kind of understand the relative condition of one facility to the next. It's not a reflection of the total cost budget. So, the number one need was at the high school at 12 million. That's mainly because it's so large. But in terms of an FCI, the high school only has, an FCI of 13.8 because there have been a lot of upgrades over the years to your high school. I think a lot of the roofing had been done and some mechanical upgrades. Some areas are newer than others. But because of its size, when there is a need to replace something, it does drive up the cost. And so there are needs at the high school, significant needs, but it's not a facility that we would recommend, replacing. It's worth reinvestment.
So could you give me that breakdown on the Comanche? To get rid of that, you said how much it was to redo it and then to replace
It's
it?
6 million plus to try to renovate.
Renovate and to build a new one, the same square footage?
No, that's not to replace, I think that's the FCI price.
Yeah, the Comanche, Michael, it's indicated at 8.8 million.
For
That's
replacement.
replacement cost.
And what?
At same square
what is
footage.
that?
That would be at 44,227.
That's including all the small buildings in the back, or is it just the front part?
That should be inclusive of all the buildings.
But repair price is, it's almost identical, right? I mean, it was 6 point something million for the repair price.
Right.
So when you look
Yeah,
at
they
it.
don't want to repair it, I'm
No,
saying,
but that's-
I just want to see what, if they were looking at the buildings in the back, or was it just the front part?
The gym.
Yeah. Those are, I guess modular, some kind of modular, weren't they?
No, it was a
It's
barn. It was a barn. It was just a barn. It was metal. From what I saw.
All those little,
Oh, those?
Yeah.
Those were all concrete.
is it, so it's not modular?
No, sir.
So now that we have this report, we can work with the committees that the campuses and cabinet have started to put together and that board members can be a part of to determine what order and what it is that we have to do to get ourselves in the best position to take care of our kids and provide a safe environment. And I think it's pretty clear based on the amount, and while that doesn't mean that you have to do all of it at one time, that there are a lot of things. And the report is very comprehensive. It's several hundred pages long. What is it, 500 something pages long? So a lot of pictures, and there's going to be a lot of work to say, okay, now that we have this and you can see it, where do we move forward?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
The first thing that they said, go back to the down to show the 61%.
FCI, please?
Yes.
Go to that, yes.
That was the stadium.
Yes, sir.
Now, what did y'all find at the stadium besides its age that y'all didn't like?
Michael, can you maybe pull up the
What
high
I'm
school
alluding to,
stadium?
did y'all see any structural damage like beams or anything that would have to condemn it next year before whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to take this issue to have to be.
Because it didn't somebody tell us something about that?
4 years ago, we had to have them come over there and look at it because it was either concrete issues or the beams. So
There were some
that's what
concerns.
I'm looking at. What did y'all find?
Michael, can you pull up the detail for the stadium?
I don't have that report available to pull up at the moment. I'm checking my notes real quick. Just give me 1 second. And I will give you a little more information. We had a team of assessors that visited it, so I want to make sure I tell you exactly what they found and not communicate anything that's not correct. Just
There's
1
nothing
minute.
that we'll have to condemn it for
Well-
next year.
Well, we'll definitely, if that would have been the case, they would have told us right away. They would have called Michael or myself, like, hey, you know what, we have a problem. You know, that happened
That's the only
6,
thing
7
that I'm
years,
worried about.
you know.
Yeah.
With
I saw where it was
Tory.
at, I understand about the square footage and whatever, but I just wanted to make sure. Yes, I understand it's coming to the end of its life.
Yeah, with the end of pretty much close to 60 years,
Yes.
we're typically looking at end of life for buildings as far as the systems, the concrete and all that.
That's what I was looking at, but no
I
worries,
can-
don't worry about the details, I just wanted, if you can assure me that we're not going to do it fine.
Yes, we
That's,
Any other questions?
Do you have something, Sandy?
Oh, we were about the
Just curious
bus,
about the buds.
about
See if
the
you were-
school.
Cool.
I think that bus, if I remember correctly, for repair was 4, was it 4
For buds, as far as replacement, you're looking at 6.7.
6, but repair?
Repair, for buds, can you go to buds for repair?
2.8 million.
8 million.
That's to get it back in.
compliance or just compliance?
It's to reset the FCI almost back to zero.
Yes, close to it, yes.
So-
You got electrical, and then you have, throughout all the mechanical, electrical, wall finishes, windows, you have just a sliver of all the systems pretty much on that.
60 back into the.
Yes, sir.
You got a good 300,000 on tech security. And one thing I did want to reiterate, that cost that is indicated there, can you scroll up, Michael, please? So we can see the 51 million for everything. That is just based on today's numbers. If you were to do that work right now, it does not currently indicate any inflation or any escalation as far as inflation and escalation right now. So if you were to determine the committee, hey, we're going to do the work at the high school. Well, when are you going to do the work at the high school? If you're going to do that work 2-3 years down the road, then you need to factor in escalation and inflation on top of that number to plan out when that project is designed and bid.
If I could just add, as Hector said, that this is a kind of a snapshot of today's needs. Those numbers will change if these projects are deferred into the future. Most importantly, we wanted to emphasize that what this report gives you is really the needs today. It gives you a lot of data so that when your committee starts making future master planning decisions for your facilities, you can have something to reference. Ultimately, that number, that 51 million, will change if you decide to replace facilities or make other programmatic changes as you work through your facility master planning. But we hope that this provides you the data you need to create a capital improvement program, whether or not that turns into a bond program or not, or whether it just turns into a facility, preventative maintenance schedule. One way or the other, once you start master planning and making decisions about which facilities remain or which ones get repurposed or which ones might get replaced, there might be strategic ways to not have to spend $51 million. So that's what we feel is the next step, is to really take this data and work with your committee to develop a long-range master plan.
Will you guys have a recommendation as to how to proceed with which project, which might look at the big picture of saving us money and helping us with those decisions?
Pretty much many times the districts will continue on with us for master plan to discuss, whether you have other programmatic needs. This is just based on the existing conditions, what needs to be fixed, replaced, and then what if you want to have a culinary program that you may not have right now. So we start looking into what that entails, or other type of programs that may necessitate a little bit more square footage. So you're not just looking at the needs of replacing or fixing things. You're starting to look at things that you might want to add as far as programming. That's when we've done master planning into that, and then typically gone into also bond planning many times of the school districts.
So I'm wondering, like this right now, if I'm correct, you're telling me this is a snapshot of what's currently on our properties.
Correct.
Do you, in y'all's matrix or y'all factor in, do y'all factor in population growth or technology inadequacies or growth of, I want to be at 10G next 10 years, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that factor into y'all's assessment?
That, Michael, please chime in if you want, but as far as the technology, that was looked into, and, to upgrade it to
Are
today's.
we at our limit, or did y'all think that, or?
You could use some improvements pretty soon as far as technology. I mean, you're close to your limits from what you remember, right, from North Star. We hired a technology consultant for that technology aspect, but I remember that some of the discussions were that you're needing technology quite a bit at your campuses right now. But as far as looking into the future, then you might, start looking at that, and we could have those discussions as far as master planning technology, where you want to be versus what should be upgraded right now.
Thank you, sir. Technology is going to be a concern from now on.
Yeah, technology is
What
very,
have you.
with today's learning environments, they're very technology intensive. We're designing 21st century learning environments, and we're not only thinking 5 years ahead, we're trying to think and make sure that we leave enough area, enough electrical power for what's to come that we don't know about right now.
Especially with Texas Tech and our minutes and all the technology.
Well, I had a little trouble hearing the question, but just to address the technology, we do feel like this number of 10.4 million for technology does make your facilities future ready for current needs and into the future. A lot of the cost is in infrastructure. Some of it's actually in the central administration facility to make sure that from a communication standpoint and from your network, you have the improvements at central admin to accommodate, devices and AV and multimedia in the classroom as well. So again, in the detailed report that you've received, in Appendix A to the executive summary at the very end of that report, you may have to, as Dr. Zamora said, there's a few hundred pages, but near the end, you'll see a detailed listing of the technology improvements we're recommending. It goes into line item details of what we recommend on a campus by campus level. Some of those are security upgrades, which, like I mentioned, are things like cameras and control card access, but then a lot of them are technology to prepare you for the future.
Any other questions? Hector, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next portion of our meeting goes into public hearing on proposed changes to trustee election wards as required by 2020 decennial census.
741, Ms. Beverly, for the public hearing portion of the proposed changes, in case anybody, no one signed up, and we officially put it on the record. Ms. McKenzie, any other questions for her? Close that one out and move over to the next public hearing.
Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
And next, public hearing, financial integrity rating system of Texas First. Dr. Samora.
742, public hearing for the first rating system. You see the report in front of you that contains what is required from the state. The first integrity rating system of the state of Texas always runs on the previous school year's audit. So what you're looking at right here, which I'll throw this over to Ms. Maria because I know she does this annually, is from the previous audit, not the one that they're currently working on for this school year. And I know that she'll probably voice her disdain for the state's system, but I'll leave that to her. Ms. Maria, first.
Yes, sir. I have provided everyone with the management report, and I have made some copies for the audience as well that's sitting on the table for anybody that would like one. Like Dr. Zamora said, the district financial rating is one of the first indicators that we are required to provide to you. We did get a C this year, which does meet standards achievement. However, they did add a new indicator based on the 1920 data, which is indicator number 10. And it basically is giving us a 10% variance from our estimated revenue to the actual revenue. And for that year, we did have a $1.5 million value supplement. So that took us over the 10% variance, which is the 3-year average. So we barely missed it by 0.03. However, we didn't get scored on that. They gave us a fail. And I did appeal it to the state, and we lost the appeal. but they did inform me that it would not be scored next year. So I'm thinking that they probably realized that some of these things are out of our concern because value supplements come in later after our budget has already, after the assessor has already certified the values. They pick up other values, they come in, we get more money, which that's a plus. We did receive over $1.5 million in extra revenue, and we have the same situation coming up in 2021 because we had another value supplement. So that's extra money for the district, but as far as the way TA is concerned, we only have a 10% variance, and that takes us over that variance. So I was not happy with that as Dr. Zamora, because we have historically gotten an A superior, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna challenge it. I did, but we lost the challenge, but that is what happened. And so that's one of the required indicators, which are page 2 and 3, which is the current year, 1920, data for the current allocation or for the current rating, and then the next page is a comparison to prior year indicators. And as you can see, last year we did get a superior of a score 96, so I'm hoping that the state sees the difference and will make changes with that. One of the other disclosure that we are supposed to report in a public hearing is the comparison, which I just mentioned, the comparisons, and then the other additional information, which one is the superintendent's contract, which that begins on page 6 through 13 is the current superintendent's contract. The other one is the summary of schedule of the reimbursements received by the superintendent and each board member. And that information is listed on page 14, which once again, it's based on the 1920 data. So that still lists Mr. Trainum and Mr. Ezel as our board member and superintendent at the time. The other two disclosures, which are on page 15, disclosure 3, which is any outside compensation by the superintendent, which we did not have any, or any gifts received by the executive's officers, board members. We did not have any transactions on that. And then disclosure number 5 is on page 16, and that's any business transactions with any board members. And that was with, we did have some transactions with Mr. Ezel and Stockton Glass, and the amount is indicated there on that page. And that's all the information that I have. And just on the bottom of that page, I just have a summary of where all the different disclosures are listed. I'll be glad to address any questions that you may have.
Question?
One more chance for the public hearing based on her report, and we can continue, sir.
Okay, any comments from the public hearing? Comments from anyone? If not, we'll close this thing at 7:44, I guess, it's good enough. Okay, moving on to item 8, action items. The board may elect to consider, discuss, table, approve, and/or take action on any of these items under the section. Under A, resolution adopting single-member districts. Dr. Zamora.
Thank you, sir. This is a topic that Ms. McKenzie and Ms. Sarah went over in the last couple of board meetings. After reviewing the resolution and seeing that the wards are now balanced, everybody has had their chance to ensure that we are straight. It is my recommendation that we approve the resolution adopting single-member districts.
We have a recommendation to move forward with redistricting to ensure compliance. Do I hear any motion?
I move to approve the resolution adopting single-member districts.
We have a motion by Flo to move forward with the resolution redistricting to ensure compliance. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ursula. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda. We have rest, 2020-21 first reading regular report. Dr. Simona.
Public hearing just took place. Ms. Maria presented the results of the first reading. I agree with her. It is a sneaky system, the way you have to guess that leeway. And I know that the appeal that she sent forward to the state was taken into account, and probably weighed into everything. But as it stands, we're still in a passing scenario, and we've learned from this. It's my recommendation that we approve the first reading report.
We have a recommendation to approve the first reading report. Do I hear a motion? You want?
I make a motion to approve the first reading report.
We have a motion by Sandy to recommend approving the first reading report. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Flo. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is reimbursement resolution. Dr. Simona.
Very similar to what the district did last year. Last year it was to reimburse for expenses for certain employees because of the challenges of working remotely. In this case, because of the ESSER funds and the purpose behind them, to return back and address COVID slide. And because so many of our employees stepped back into the mix, coming back to live instruction and whatever challenges they encountered and have continued to do so, I recommend that the board approve a reimbursement resolution as presented. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Ms. Maria is here as well if it's something that would rather be asked of her.
So part-time ones, what is it gonna be? I'm reading it right here.
So as it stands, this is the same as last year.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
I motion to approve the reimbursement resolution.
We have a motion by Nacho to approve the reimbursement resolution. Do I hear a second? Second by Ursula. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Quantitative Academic Improvement Plan. Dr. Samora.
Thank you, sir. This one I prepared a presentation for. Mr. Madrid is going to see if you can get that up for me, and then I'll use this fancy little device with the laser on it and go through the slides. In front of you, you have the presentation, board members, just in case. I know that it's difficult. We're working on getting a better screen and tablets. So this is something that we've been talking about as a leadership team, cabinet, campuses, all the way across, and it stems from some research into the district, the challenges that we face, and I'm going to show you in this quantitative-based improvement plan, aka ability grouping, some information that I think you'll find interesting. If we, let's see, it's not swapping on with you. Next slide. All right, good. So this first page of the presentation is just kind of some background, and I focused on Alamo, the Alamo Elementary, which has third grade, all of our third graders in the district, and the challenges that they face. You can see the different colors consists first of the approaches grade level category right here, and these yellow arrows are yellow for a purpose. That's because approaches is passing, but it's right there at the earliest level. And you can see in the name that that student is approaching grade level. Then you have your green, which is right here in the blue section for your meets grade level. You can see that right here you have a 53% for reading, and right here I believe that is a 76. And then at the master's grade level for reading ELA at the third grade level, they have to be at an 85%. Now that's determined based off of 34 questions, greatly reduced from in the past because they no longer are doing the experimental questions. They took those out and instead now are doing experimental tests at a separate time what we're doing here is making sure that the kids, that your average kid can finish in 2 hours. Okay, now you can see that this varies by grade level, by subject. This is reading, this is math, and then you have your science and your social studies and your writing. Much smaller the number of tests and grade levels where they're taking these. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can skip to the next. All right, this time it worked. So what we did is we had a fall benchmark, and this data that I'm showing you right here shows you the number of students who completed this assessment. This one is the English Language Arts reading for the 3rd graders, and what the passing standard was for them, if you remember from that last sheet, was 53%. So anything equal to or greater than is considered passing. If they had less than that, then they are below the approaches or below the state standard for where they should be at a minimum for that grade level. Now, when we administered these exams, the reading and the math, they were released exams from the past. I want to say specifically 2019, yes, 2019 for this one. And they took this on the 8th of December or the 7th. It was 1 day and 1 day without having finished all of the curriculum. The program allows us to go in there and remove the curriculum, the questions that dealt with curriculum that has not yet been covered. We administered the release test because this gives us a pretty good idea. If a kid can pass it with only having taken about half of the curriculum at this point, then they're doing pretty well and will probably have no problem come May. But the data that I'm showing you right here is taking out the curriculum that hasn't been covered. So it is being taken into account right now that out of the 139 kids that took this test, only 53% of them passed, despite them going over what they have reviewed and gone over this year. Now, if you look down here, you can see the number of kids that achieved masters at 12, the number of kids that had meets, and then approaches at 50, and then below at 65. I'm gonna try it one more time. You can see the pie charts, and board members, you have this in front of you with even more detail. What we have here now are the mathematics, and what the passing standard is for mathematics is also 53%. You can see 40 and 60% is where we're at. The kids that had the masters, only 2, so that makes up 1%, 18, 36, and then 85 that were unable to meet the standard at this point. And this is, in line with what I've been talking about, where we are kind of in a triangle, a pyramid, if you will, where at the base, the majority of our kids fall, right? The approaches, and then those kids that are below. And when we get over here to the meets and the masters, there are very few. Moving along, and this is broken out so that you can see what it would look like, and you can see the pyramid that I've referred to several times in the conversations that we've had and where our kids are currently performing. Again, I'll remind you all that this is where we're performing with only the stuff being evaluated that we have gone over this year. So it's not that they were administered a test that they haven't, they were, but this data is focused on what they did learn this year. So this does not have to be this way. And what I mean by that, it makes sense, okay, there's gonna be more down here, but if you raise a master's kid over here, then this means that this reduces, and that master's kid, to get to masters, is gonna elevate themselves and probably those around. You can see these pyramids that can become a square, that can become an inverted pyramid, to where the bulk of our kids are up here in the masters and in the meets, and then we can really focus down here on the ones that we have left to try to bring them up. So talking about the plan and the actual phasing that we're looking to implement, I want to note that the phase-in period is for us to continue learning. This is something that is new. I do not personally know of a district that has done this in, straight out in the way that we're talking about doing it in decades, because this is something that has fallen out of favor. But I believe that the reasons why it fell out of favor have more to do with people's opinion and qualitative, this is how I feel data, instead of being 100% based on the actual numbers and where the kid falls. So you can say that what we're talking about is establishing groups using our quantitative-based fall benchmarks. We did consult with our attorneys. Because we are not discriminating on their race, their color, their religion, we are 100% doing it on where they're performing. We are good to go. The phase 1 consists of us talking about our elementary pre-K through 5 students being placed in the appropriate groups for reading and math. Right? And those groups, we're going to give the name that the state has provided for us. You know, we're going to say we have the master's classes, the meets groups, the approaches, and then the below groups. For 6th grade through high school, we're going to look at this phase 1 portion, it being at the discretion of that campus leadership team in conjunction with us to see how we implement it. It becomes more complicated because of extracurricular activities and the different schedules and things that they have going on in the day. So it may be something that we phase in with different plans at middle school and high school. I want to make it clear that behavior will not be taken into account for the ability group placement. Whether they are the best kid, angel, or the worst kid, they will be placed where they belong based on their score and their ability on reading and math. So notice there are 2 groups. It's not okay, you're in the same head of the class type scenario. That's probably a bad reference, right? There's not too many young people that won't get what that is, but the head of the class scenario. And then we have the accommodations still be taken into account, right? We're not going to discriminate against anybody who has a disability. Instead, they will be still placed in the least restrictive environment with the group that they belong with, and everything will be done the correct way. We will inform our parents of where their child's status is at, right? So that we can come up with a plan together to let them know how to get their kid to fulfill their potential. Now, I think that one of the first things in fixing a problem is admitting there is one. And while it may not sound while it may hurt some people's feelings to say that you're just in the approaches group or that you're in the below group, unless we can come to terms with that, the parents and the kiddos, that there is an issue, they're not going to really take the interventions and the accelerated instruction that we'd like to offer them as serious as if they are in one of those groups. Especially because the data has shown us that we have some kids, even at the highest level, the student who scored the highest on the math is not in the masters, will not be in the masters group for reading. So you can see the disparity there. You know, being in a master's level group for math and then being in a meets group over here for reading, what do you think they need to focus on? And if they want to climb to the top, which they'll have an opportunity to do, we need to address those issues. Okay, so let's see, going on to the next one. Okay, so you can see we're starting to get a little greener now. Phase 2, second semester. The students that show mastery level, right? If they are put in the masters, or if they're put in the meets, or whatever group that they fall in, and are just knocking it out the park, when we get to a progress report, or we get to a final report card period, the parents will have the option to work with the kid and say, we want to volunteer to retest to try to move up to one of the other groups. Okay? When we get to the point of actually conducting the second benchmark, approximately somewhere in April, that is the section of time where all of the kids will once again reassess, having completed at that point all of their curriculum, or very near all of their curriculum for the school year. And so, as you can see, the number of groups are not limited to only one. Although in the beginning for that math group, that's probably all we will need, because there are very few that fall into that category. As the students rise through and continue to improve, we turn it into now we have 2 master's groups. And ideally it'd be a dream if all of our classes, or most of our classes, were masters or meets. So we're not limited by that, but we will continue to implement the system diligently and objectively, groups within groups, continuing to base that off of the data. So even if you were at a master's level, which remember for the math was 88% or higher, it may be that you are in the 96 percentile and up master's group, whereas the other master's group is in the 88 through 95 and so on all the way down the ladder. Okay, so we're talking about weekend, summer, Texas Tech K through 12 acceleration, all being something that we can look at to help get our kids up to where they need to be. Which remember, while approaches, the lowest level of passing is passing, it wouldn't be called approaches grade level if it was what the goal is. The true goal is to get the kids to meets and ideally to get them to master that grade level information. Okay, on to phase number 3, and this is talking preparation and lessons learned from what we're fixing to do this school year and on to the next, right? 2023, we're looking at actual STAR data. Right, so the kids will take the tests, some of them in April, some of them in May. We will have the information back. We'll break that data down and start looking at grouping the kids for the upcoming school year where they're supposed to be, identifying any areas that they may be weak on that we may have to address during the summer as well. We're looking at phase 3, creating an alternative setting, something where those kids that are doing the absolute poorest can be addressed in a different format. You know, this is something that we're looking at, possibly reopening the Butts campus or something at technology, which Butts still has its own dedicated number, you know, in the system. And this is something not as a campus to treat juvenile misbehavior or behavior issues. Instead, this is an alternative form of choice for the parents for these kids to get accelerated instruction. You can see that we're already working on the preliminary idea of a mentorship program where individuals that are respected in the community and that the kids love, like Coach Peters, can swing through, and instead of having to talk with 200 kids in a grade level, focus on those 7 or 12 that are there on a week-to-week. And the same thing with some of our other leaders that are in the district and the community. Giving our kids something to believe in, something that they can come around on a week-to-week basis and expect to interact with these individuals rather than just wave, and hopefully return them back to their home campus a more confident and grade level ready to go into the appropriate group. Okay, so this section right here is comments and questions. I have this, I know it's a sensitive topic. I think that the longer we speak, or as I speak to people in the community, everybody seems to understand this when we talk about sports. Everybody knows that at some point, some kids can no longer compete. When they reach JV, that's the end of their career. When they reach varsity, that's the end of their career. For a few select few, maybe they go on to the college level, but at some point, most of us are told, you've reached your point. And all the way throughout, all the way as you're going through, there are individuals that drop out, and we understand that not everybody can be a cheerleader, and not everybody can be a varsity volleyball player or football player. And yet, when it comes to the education and the grouping that we are discussing, which is kind of an arcane practice, and one that was looked at as with negative racist connotations and whatnot, we're trying to do everything possible to remove that from the equation and set our kids up for success in the areas that the state has told us are most important, and that is reading and math. You can go back and look at what grade levels are being assessed from 3rd all the way to high school. Questions, comments?
You think? Okay, let's go.
All right, well, this is something that is within the realm of the administrators executing a plan, but because of the nature of this and because of kind of the belief that might be out there, and to clarify, we went through this presentation. And I recommend that the board approve this quantitative academic improvement plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or issues that you may have at this point. I will say that it is a work in progress, and understand that you are not approving and locking this as it is. It's just the phases that we're looking at and the direction that we're moving. We would just like to ensure that we have the board's blessing to move on with something that may be considered controversial. But what I can say is that I truly believe in my heart that this is what is best for our kids and what can get us to the next level, to get not just the kids to pass, but those kids that are at the top, our master's kids, to compete for the Ivy Leagues and the military academies, because they'll be able to perform to the highest level on their SAT, ACT as well, having been addressed throughout their careers.
Any questions? We have a recommendation to approve the plan as presented by Dr. Zamora, quantitative academic improvement plan. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the quantitative academic improvement plan.
We have a motion by Nacho to approve the quantitative improvement plan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Flo. Any other comments? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, motion carries. 6-0. Okay. That does all these things. And the next item is for the closed session, and I don't believe we need to go into the closed session unless someone has something to do or anything. Next board meeting, of course, January.
Yes, sir. January. Enjoy y'all's vacation. See y'all at the party.
Okay. Any questions from the news meeting? No? If not, stand adjourned, 8:11. Thank you all. Have a good Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone. Okay, thank you for being here, sir. Take your time.